gon' need to raise the rim. They gon' need the cage in that gymnasium. I play to win, Will still Chamberlain. Even Damien and Satan is afraid of him.
And they was talking all that hot ish. Where the prophets ain't apostles, here the gospel is the gossip. I'm a science project, try and pocket this rhyming process. Watch us in formation, going through lines. Fiber optics, this is Miley Cyrus in her freak phase. The naked truth, don't be Ray Caruth in a trunk pump, just take the truth. Shit, Daisy Dukes at a night show. I raid your room, change the mood. That was like though, yeah. Break a fuse if they refuse. This snapping, shots without the flashes. If I was ever in a pit with you, that's harassment. Your storyboard magic, they had it. To be real, our ears over the field like 100-yard passes. Score the basket, order more caskets. Only way they getting bypasses is gastric. I'm tapped in, it's too late. Fix your face, this is sleeping on a killer in a cabin by Crystal Lake.
Lord,
we got rent to raise.
They gon' need to raise the rim.
Peace, family. Welcome to another episode, Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Rich. Got the pleasure of having a living legend with me once again today, Professor James Smalls. Welcome back, my brother.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to see the studio has moved forward since it was here the last time. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Proud of that. Yeah.
Indeed.
Nice.
So listen, I want to start out with something major that's going on November 11th. I understand you're going to be in New York City along with two other gentlemen that were instrumental when I first became conscious and gained knowledge itself, and that is Professor Runoko Rashidi and Leonard Jeffries. Now, these is three all-stars. So it's yourself, Leonard Jeffries, and Runoko Rashidi.
And the three of us go back, me and Dr. Jeffries go back 50 years.
50?
Together. Wow. Yeah, me and Runoko go back about 35 years together. So
wow.
We've been out here a long time. And what that means is that we've been trying to serve our people. What a lot of people don't understand, when you're out here doing what we do, you don't make no money. You know what I'm saying? You broke. You don't make money because the system rejects what you're doing. Most of your people who have bought into the system rejects what you're doing. And the others who are ignorant or lost are afraid of what you're doing. And so you're out here trying to fight for people. And it's a very difficult process.
Wow.
And for those of us who survived it, I don't feel anything against those who couldn't do it, who didn't survive it. You understand? We're in a war.
Right.
In a war, there's victims. Mm-hmm. But Runoko and Dr. Jeffries have been on the front line for decades. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen them take a back step, no matter what. Mm. And that's why this is going to be an extraordinary day. So Brother Runoko have a pictorial album of blacks from all over the world.
Yeah, he does.
Dr. Leonard Jeffries is the African timeline. I mean, he can do history in 50-year increments going back a couple of thousand years, which what he calls his turning points of history. So, and for me, my thing is to look at the politics, look at the culture, and look at the economics, but at the center of that, look at the spiritual system that guides all of that. Because we're one of the richest black population in the world, spending over $1 trillion a year for the last 6 years, and we're still in trouble. Because we don't have the mentality to tell the Arab guy, I'm not going to shop in your store and let you get rich off of me while I live in poverty. Or to tell the Chinese lady in the cleaners, I'm not coming to your cleaners. I can pull my money out of my $1 trillion and open up black cleaners and hire the young black men and women in my community. Or telling the Korean woman, if I need my nails done, I got a bunch of young black girls that would like how to do nails. And we can send them to school and teach them and open a parlor for them. So then in our community, there's no unemployment. But you got to have the consciousness to do that. I'm almost hating the word consciousness, you know, because people using the word consciousness, but there ain't nothing conscious about them. But you have to have a mind based on being informed by your ancestors and being fortified by your history that will instruct you how to protect and project your interests. And that way other people don't come in your community and get rich off of your community while you complaining about being poor when you're one of the richest people in the country. We're poor because of ignorance. We're poor because of lack of understanding. We're poor because of lack of knowledge. We're poor because of lack of knowledge of our specific history. We're poor because we haven't developed our self-value, self-worth, and self-esteem based on our ancestors' experiences. And when we can get rid of that poverty, we can use our wealth in our best interests. So people need to come out and see. Brother Runoko will tell that story from one perspective. On the 11th, Dr. Jeffries will tell it from another perspective. I will do it from another perspective. I think, Brother Rich, you also on the program as well?
I might be asking some questions that day. I got to double check with King Simon.
And I know we have a couple of dance groups.
Yeah, performances artists, Cam Bada, as well as Red Pill and Blue Pill.
Right.
And we have a sister, Yendi's Nefer Atum, I believe her name is. She's going to be there as well. And just so the people who have, it will also be live streamed. So
Right.
the people who go to usalivestream.com if they can't make it to New York that day. The address, if you are in New York, is 182 Remsen Street, and that's in Brooklyn, New York. The youth are free, 0 to 17 years. King Simon, that's a huge bonus for the community. And the thing about this event is if you buy one ticket, you get to bring a guest for free. That's something new.
So that's
so
big time.
there should be.
That takes away a lot of excuses for why my wife didn't come, why my husband didn't come, why my boyfriend, girlfriend,
a lot of excuses, man. A lot of excuses. So for info or to RSVP, you could text or call 347-496-1022. Once again, for info, call 347-496-1022. Doors are going to open up at 1 that day, and the event will start at 2. That is Sunday, November 11th. Can't wait, my brother.
Yes, sir. So we're all looking forward to that. That's going to be a very important historical experience. It's not just going to be an outing. It's going to be a university session. It's going to be a learning session. Bring your pencil, bring your pad, or bring your iPhone or your Samsung so you can record. This is going to be a special event, and it's going to be a powerful one.
So let's start the program, my brother.
Yes, sir, brother.
Get right to it. I'm very curious about your opinion about something. You come from a different generation than I come from. The generation you come from, there's been some figures on television that were what people would say were pro-black at the time. And we fast forward to 2018 and things change. I sat and I watched the brief clip with Kanye at the White House, and I'm looking at Jim Brown, and I'm like, damn, I heard all these stories about Jim Brown when I was young. And I used to always hear about the brother and the great works that the brother did. And to see him sit there with Trump, meet Trump continuously, smiling, I'm like, I got to get an elder's perspective on that.
Right.
Another thing is the whole Bill Cosby thing. To see what happened with Bill Cosby, somebody from your generation, knowing what went down, I mean, knowing how he started, and Dick Gregory and all these comedians that came up around that time, and we fast forward to 2018. Let's start out with the Jim Brown situation. You disappointed in my brother, or you understand?
Jim Brown was the greatest black man that ever lived. I don't think he could do anything to make me disappointed in it. The work he did out in the streets with the gangs in California, the work he did with our youth when no one else would go to those streets. He gave up his whole career to get out there and work with our young men and our young women. And he was very successful. Trump is the president of the United States. Hillary is not the president. She can't give us nothing. Bernie is not the president. He can't give us nothing. There's only one man that's president of the United States, is Donald Trump. And guess who else is sitting at the table? The Asian communities at the table, Chinese, the Latino communities at the table, the Jewish communities at the table, the Irish communities at the table, the Italian community at the table. The only person who doesn't have their leadership at the table is the black community. That makes no sense. Because I think in another 2 more years, that's who's the president. If you're going to get anything coming back to your community, that's who you have to deal with. That's political sense. If we think that another white man or woman would have been less racist because he behaved a little differently, we would then justify go sitting with a racist like a Bill Clinton, who was responsible for bringing the coke into the country that led to the crack epidemic, and then went in office, largely by our votes helping, and came up with 3 strikes and you're out against the same youngsters who he helped bring the coke in to create the crack. People say, how you saying Bill Clinton do that? You remember Oliver North, who went to jail, the colonel, and the General Secord? Where did they land those coke planes? At the Arkansas National Guard base. Who was the governor of Arkansas that could give that kind of permission? Billy Boy Clinton. We ain't even gonna get into what he did down in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? So what we have is the President of the United States is a man named Donald Trump. Whether he's crazy, sick, racist, stupid, or backwards, guess what he is? The President of the United States. And if you want to address issues that only the President can address, then that's who you're going to have to deal with. Now, if you want to sit aside for 4 years, all the other ethnic groups in the nation, the Asian, the Latinos, the Irish, the Italian, they're all sitting at that table in Washington no matter who's there. They sat there when Barack Obama was there. They didn't say he's too black for us. They went to serve their people's interests. Our Black Caucus is not doing that, and that's a shame. I can't justify Kanye. You know, maybe some of us need to call him in and sit him down. He may be just, I don't even want to deal with it. He's a young brother who needs a lot of work. But as far as Jimmy Brown is concerned, I know Jimmy Brown's work speaks for itself. And you don't find anything in his history. You know, he's an old man now, but he's still doing the same thing, trying to get laws passed, trying to influence legislation, trying to get resources sent to the poor communities and the youth he works with. And I don't think any of that has changed about him. Now, if we talk about our boy Bill Cosby, I don't think Cosby should be in jail until all of the crackers who've been charged with rape and all of these other things is thrown in jail. Okay? And I don't even think he needed to be in jail then, because he paid the woman off. They had an agreement for whatever happened, and then you take the money and then come back later because somebody want to get elected to the governorship or the senatorship from Pennsylvania and reopen a case that had a seal indictment on it or had a seal on it. And they did a lot of criminal things to put him in jail, to set an example for the tears of white women. Where were those white women in America? Where were they doing slavery when their husbands was raping all the black women? Where were they? Where was the sisterhood then? Not for a month. Where was the sisterhood, the we sisterhood, for 300 years? Matter of fact, the we sisterhood encouraged the husband to go and rape the black woman so he could stay home with her and not go to another white woman. So I don't want to hear that stuff. You know? You put me through 300, well, let's take the whole hemisphere, 400 plus years of rape, 400 plus years of sodomy, 400 plus years of molestation, and then you come and tell me, well, on one occasion, one of y'all ancestors of the victims we victimized for 400 years molested me. I ain't listening to none of that stuff. I'm being very honest. Bill Cosby shouldn't be in jail. He's in jail because he wanted to buy a network. His son was murdered because he wanted to buy a network. What him and his wife have done for black youth and the amount of schools and colleges they supported, the amount of young men he sent through Morehouse, it was Bill Cosby and his wife that saved the John Henry Clark library and collection and put it in Clark University and put a financial foundation under it, and they've done much more than that. Nobody talks about the great things they've done in the black community. I don't care if they take up his name on a star. He shouldn't have accepted a damn star in the first place. You know? But they haven't put Harry, what's his name, Harvey Weinstein. He's charged with rape multiple times. Cosby was never charged with rape. You know? And he's out on bail. Matter of fact, he's trying to work out a deal to pay everybody off. It was in the news yesterday. Cosby, at 81 years old, can't even get parole while he's appealing, given his contribution not just to the black community, but to the entertainment industry and this country at large. We still dealing with the same crackers that oversaw our passage on the Middle Passage on the slave ships. They got different clothing on now. They cut the haircut a little differently, but the mindset is the same. We still dealing with the same crackers that created the Ku Klux Klan. All right? Clothing has changed. They're driving automobiles instead of horses, but it's the same mind, same values, same interests, same principles. Nothing's changed. It's a war, and for the most part, it's a race war. And our community are the ones that are least informed or least aware of the fact that we are at war, and we're getting our butts kicked because we don't know our history.
When you look at TV and you see, so much arguing on TV between the Democrats and the Republicans and Trumps and the liberals and Alex Jones and this one and that one, some people feel as though this is all staged and it's fake and it's orchestrated. Some people feel as though this is the real deal. Their time is up. And there's a lot of infighting going on behind scenes, and people are jockeying for position. People are scared of their birth rate declining, and they don't know what to do. So is this, when you look at all of this going on, and Trump talking, he dogging the media. Every chance he get, dogging the liberals, the Democrats, every chance he get. Is this really, are they really beefing with each other like how we beef with each other? Or is this orchestrated and this is just entertainment?
No, I think they're beefing. You got one criminal who thinks he can run the enterprise one way, and you got another criminal who thinks he can run the enterprise best another way. You've got the right-wing criminals who said, just to hell with them. We'll roll over them, take what we want, and do what we want.
Right.
And then you got the slick little liberal criminal who say, yo, bro, don't do it like that. You just create more trouble, and they may come down the road, get us because our numbers are dwindling. Our space is shrinking. So let's be cool. Let's make them think we love them. Let's make them think we're including them. Let's make them think that they're achieving. And all the while, their prison rate is rising. Their unemployment is rising. Their birth rate without a family structure is rising. And we have Planned Parenthood killing more of their babies than the slave ships did. And we make them come out and fight for it. And we call it being the liberal left friends. And then we'll put them up on TV and give them TV shows, and we'll let them be spokespersons. But they'll never run the party. They'll never set the policy. They'll never set the agenda. The agenda is about controlling land, labor, and resources, primarily in Africa and the Caribbean. Let me say that again. The agenda is about controlling land, labor, and resources, primarily in Africa and the Caribbean. And you can't do that unless you silence the most powerful African community in the world, and that is the African American community. Because we took on the giant. We are Jack, the giant killer. Okay? And he understands that if we're going to mess with Africa, we got to silence this black American. We got to cripple him and her so that they can't retaliate against us. And that's what Malcolm used to call the tricknology. So you got Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the left wing and the right wing, but they go home at night to the same family. Okay? The white liberal and the white rightist, they go home at night to the same family, in the same house, operating around the same interests, economically, politically, and culturally. It's just a matter of methodology that they're fighting about. They're not fighting about whether white people are going to remain dominant, whether white supremacy is going to be the ruling ideology. They're arguing about what's going to be the methodology by which we remain dominant and what's going to be the methodology by which white supremacy remain the ruling ideology. You understand what I'm saying? Trying to make it plain and simple like Malcolm said.
Definitely. Earlier you talked about certain jobs in our community. Mm-hmm. Now I see you with a shirt there. Show the people the shirt, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Let me see that shirt. That's a nice shirt.
This is called the Harlem Memorabilia. It's the Harlem Legend Collection. the key minds behind it is Brother Rock and Brother B. And this one is mine. This is Professor Small 22. I did play football in high school and college, and I wore the number 22. Right. So when they first showed me this some months back, I go like, yeah, that's nice. But you know what? Every time they go on the table, it sells out. So we really would like for you to go online. I forgot the online address. And just look at one
website, Rob? HarlemMemorabilia.com. Yeah.
And you'll see the whole line of shirts dealing with Harlem legends, with the Honorable Marcus Garvey, with Booker Washington, Du Bois, many others, Malcolm X. The legends who made our community what it is, we honor them in an entrepreneurial spirit by these shirts. And if we've got to wear the labels and the symbols of somebody, let's wear the labels and the symbols of our legends, because behind each one of our legends are legends. And it's a part of our, our economic development. We believe in the concept of economic politics and culture at the basis of the black community, that no matter whatever we do, even the industry you're in, if you don't make no capital and understand you got a new baby in the world and you can't take care of a new baby, this is all crazy, right? So you've got to develop your craft so that it becomes and a part of the entrepreneurial tools that you use to provide the food, clothing, shelter for yourself and your family. That's bottom line. We act like you're supposed to just get money to throw up in the air. No, we're talking about food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security for ourselves and our families. How do we do that? We control the economic, the politics, and the culture where we live. How do you do that? You have an understanding of land, labor, and resources and how it gets distributed and who controls it. If you don't control those things, somebody else will. And if somebody else controls it, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to provide the food, clothing, shelter, and safety for yourself and your family. There's a formula to this, and it makes sense no matter what generation you're in. Right now in the black community, we can go in every corner, and there's another ethnic group that owns the corner store. We can go to every laundromat, and there's another ethnic group that controls the laundromat. We can go to every nail parlor, and there's another ethnic group that own the nail parlor. We can look at the delivery trucks that bring the material in our community, and there's another ethnic group driving those delivery trucks. We can go to the wholesale houses where those delivery trucks come from, and it's a white ethnic group controlling that. Now, where are we in the equation other than to be consumers?
Well, let me say this, and let me get your take on this. Because where you were going with it is right where the question I want to ask you. Growing up, since we mentioned Mr. Cosby earlier, him and his wife, doctor and lawyer. When you went, there was a thing when I was young, and you asked somebody what you want to be when you grow up. It was the coolest thing to say, a doctor or a lawyer. Even if you didn't want to be a doctor or lawyer, right. You just said symbol. It. Yeah, it was a symbol of prosperity. A doctor, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. These jobs that you mentioned in the community, a lot of people look down on those jobs. They're like immigrant jobs. They're like, I'm not doing no people, woman. I'm not.
A lot of people that look down on them is black people.
That's what I'm referring to.
Immigrant communities are people. Those are nations. Those are ethnic groups. They're not looking down on it. They're getting wealthy off of those jobs. They're sending their children to college off of those jobs. And their children are becoming the lawyers and the doctors and the teachers and administrators.
So with that being said, why is going to college? Because Cosby promoted college heavy. A Different World, another show that came on. College was sold to us more than other groups. We thought that college was the greatest thing to do in the world. Once you go to college, you made it in life.
No, but college wasn't sold to us more than other groups. The other groups already had it. Didn't have to be sold to them. College was sold to us because we were at the bottom rung of those who went to get those skills. You don't go to college to get a degree. You go to the college to get a set of skills that you can come back in your community and use. When you get a degree in business administration, it isn't just the word business administration. It's a body of skills on how to manage a business. It's a body of skills on how to organize a business. It's a body of skills that tell you how to do bookkeeping and accounting and banking. It's a body of skills that tell you how to do inventory. It's a body of skills that tell you how to do surveys. those bodies of skills should allow you to come back and help others who don't need to go to college learn that body of skills so that they could put it to work. It's just like everybody, if everybody in the community was a lawyer, no lawyers would make any money, okay? But that one who's a lawyer, he has a job, one, to help represent his group, but also to instruct and inform his group. Because the lawyer isn't just a lawyer, he's got to have a secretary, he's got to have researcher, he's got to have clerks, and there's multiple other job streams that come from that profession, okay? And if you go in our community, yes, you have a black person who's a doctor, but most of the people that work in the medical profession are not doctors. They're the technical assistants in radiation. They're the technical assistants in a lab. They're the what do you call it, the clerical assistants in offices. They're the inventory people. All of these skills that come with this profession, but if you don't have an anchor, if you don't have a black medical office in your community, you know who we see when we go into medical offices in our community, and it's not our young black ladies, no matter which one you go into. Matter of fact, even the black doctors don't hire our young black ladies, you know. So yes, you do need people who have the higher skills, but you got to understand that the basics, most people will never go to college in any group. Yet college was designed to train in specific skills, not just to get a piece of paper. And a lot of people went to school and just got a piece of paper, never studied hard, never put themselves to it, and never gained the skills, and then found themselves coming out and couldn't even get jobs. But there's something behind that. That's when we come back to consciousness. That's when we come back to knowing your history. That's when we come back to being inspired by your ancestry. That's when you come back to where you feel, I owe this to them old people, okay? They suffered to give me an opportunity. Now I've got to take this opportunity, get this skill, get this money, get this wealth, build this community. Most other people, when they leave our community with that money, they go home to their community. What we do when we get that money, we go home to their community. We abandon our communities. You see? So it's a question of having the knowledge and having the understanding to take all of these pieces of tools, to take Marcus Garvey and Booker Washington and W.B. Du Bois and Harriet Tubman and Ida B. Wells and what's our sister name that made the hair products? Sister Walker, and put them in a relationship in our minds. There's something to learn from every one of them. Put them in a relationship. But see, if we don't put them in a relationship, I was working with some brothers down in Coolwater, Mississippi. I never heard of Coldwater, Mississippi until about 3 months ago. Those young brothers, they call themselves the Black Liberation Movement. And they've organized and bought land. And on this land, they started planting. Brother said he didn't know nothing but farming 2 years ago. So he went to the elders who were farmers, and they taught him. They came in with a bumper crop last year: watermelon, string beans, okra, tomato. Problem was they didn't have a distribution network, so half of that died in the field and rotted. They were able to get up into Memphis. Memphis is about an hour away, and find some markets there. But they're working harder this time. They're planning now ahead to find the markets. They're working with the Nation of Islam. I was down there at a meeting a few months ago. They're working with some other groups out of Chicago to try and find the market for the produce. But they need certain skills to help them, you know. So I went in to talk to them about the fundamentals of economics. Another group of brothers came in from Chicago to show them the fundamentals of real estate. Another brother came in from Chicago with his team to show them the fundamentals on how to set up a credit union. But somebody has to have those skills. But the skills got to be brought back home to the people. One of our problems is people go get this college degree and the skills. What's the first thing they do? Leave the people. The whole idea when we were out there in the 60s, 70s fighting and getting our heads crushed and stuff was to give opportunity to the next generation so they can come back and build a nation, not run away from the nation. And I think the run away from the nation has to do with the consciousness of history, the consciousness of culture, and the value of history and culture, and the importance of it, and how it helped you construct yourself, construct your mind based on a relationship that somebody who was you in another time and another body was reaching for into the future. And you got to have a relationship to that hand that's reaching out of the past and the future. History gives you that relationship. History gives you purpose. History gives you foundation.
For the brothers and sisters that leave the hood, we have books called the $1 Million Slaves, and we often criticize celebrities, entertainers for not donating, giving back. But the celebrities, and we're starting to look at not just the people who left, but the people who are still there at this moment in time as, shifting some of the blame on them as well. And when I say that, I mean there's a book, $1 Million Slaves, but there's not a book called Middle Class Slaves or $30,000 Slaves. We have this impression that, when you leave or when you make money, you somehow sold out. Reason we don't offer the same criticism to those who don't give because they say they don't have any money, but yet they have money to get blunts, or they have money to get their little liquor, or there seems to always be excuse with blacks who make 30, 40,000, and they just look for the blacks who make the 6 figures and above to do all the business for them.
I think the criticism of both need to be context, right? Because we're blaming the victims. Who are we fighting for? I was talking to Brother Rock about this in the car. Who are we fighting for? Those are the people we're fighting for. Mm-hmm. If we condemn them out of hand, we're standing alone. Why even have a fight? We're fighting for somebody. We're fighting for people who have been, due to slavery and Jim Crow and oppression and all the other stuff that comes with it, have, like Dr. Noble said, they suffer from a shattered consciousness and a fractured black identity. And nothing has ever fixed it. People say, oh, you had the black consciousness movement in the 60s. No, we didn't. We had an effort at it. We made an effort. But we didn't achieve it. We made an effort. We got our butts kicked. We won some ground, but we were up against a formidable force. Your generation, the hip-hop generation, can't rule you out. You use music, and you change many dynamics. I actually give the hip-hop and the rappers, with all of the negative stuff Crackers was able to do with our music, I give that youth and that part of that generation credit for getting, I guess, the majority of our people who would have been on drugs off of that culture. Nobody talks about the fact, yes, we still have drugs in our community, but something happened in the 90s and early 2000s where we did a shift. And nobody wanted to talk about it. We did a shift away from drugs. And part of that shift came because of the education motif that the rappers were putting down. We know all rappers weren't negative. We know that all lyrics weren't destructive. And people was listening to those lyrics. And those lyrics was as liberating as the voice of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. But if we don't say that it was, how the hell is it going to be talked about? We've got to give credit to the youth. We got to tell you that, hey, you said some things that changed some minds, and changing those minds changed the direction of our people. We would have lost a lot more people. We think we got people in jail now, we would have had a lot more people in jail. If it wasn't for a Biggie, if it wasn't for a Tupac, and so many of the names we don't know. Because much of their music had a message worth listening to, and those messages had liberating elements to them. But you got to do this. The youth got to tell their story. You got to tell the world what you did and why you did it. I can be here as a support for you, but I didn't have that experience. I watched you, and I know what I saw. Oh yeah, there were some things I felt like smacking some of the little brothers down over, but there were some things, I was grooving with, because the message was right. And you saved us. Think if that message wasn't there. Just let's go back and look at the hip-hop piece, then we'll come back around to your central point. when it started, it was at a time when the Panther Party had just been crushed, the Black Liberation Army had just been crushed, Dr. King a few years ago had just been murdered, Medgar had just been murdered, Malcolm had just been murdered, and for whatever it's worth, Bobby Kennedy trying to work with us had been murdered. They had taken the music out of our schools, they took phys ed out of our school, they had crushed the black political movement in most parts of the country, and they were doing Holland and Oates, crackers who sound like us, crossover music. We couldn't even get a job singing no more. We weren't teaching music in the school, so our kids didn't learn how to play instruments anymore. And what happened? I always say it was the gods of the ancestors came down to the mind of our youth and told them, I can take your mouth, your tongue, and your throat, and I can create an African orchestra, okay? And you did it and captured the entire world. Don't let nobody steal that legacy from y'all. Don't let nobody steal that legacy. The legacy of rap and hip hop captured the world in a greater way than rock and roll did, than jazz did, than anything before it. But if you don't proclaim it and then extract from it the value of it that the youth can use today, they'll pretend you never happened. That's why they got all these TV shows, talent shows. You see, all I forgot the name of them, but this hour, this thing, you got this dude here singing, these dude here dancing. That's just to replace you in the marketplace, because you took over the entire culture of America. You took over the culture of the world. And they've got these multiple TV shows trying to bring the white cultural music genre back to front stage. Ain't gonna happen. But the black youth must tell their story. Tell their story without being ashamed. And what'll help you understand your story best, learn the history of your ancestry. And it'll show you how you did what you did and why you did what you did. You know, that's a power. That's culture power. That's spiritual power. Spirituality ain't no God flying in the sky and no black juju man hanging out. Okay, spirituality is how you use your mind to deal with your reality. Okay.
Since you mentioned the word power, how do you feel about voting? A lot of the elders feel like you don't have the right to complain if you don't vote, and a lot of the youth feel like voting ain't worth shit. It don't add up to nothing. Matter of fact, there's no such thing as an election. It's a selection. They select who they want to be president. It's the system is rigged, and you're wasting your time voting. So what's your take on what we went through to get the right to vote versus how we feel right now and not voting at all right now?
Well, if you don't try a tool, you can't criticize the tool, all right? It's a tool. We live in a Republican, democratic social order and the way the political structure works. Now, either you're going to be in that office distributing the tax money, or somebody else going to be in that office distributing the tax money. The people who distribute the tax money is our city council person, our state assembly person, our state senator person, our different commissioners, our mayor, our governor, our senators, etc. Now, you're right that it's a selection and not an election. But the way it becomes an election rather than a selection, you got to get in there and learn how that shit works and take it over from them.
Okay.
You know, get in there, learn how it works, and take it over. If I wanted to run Brother Rich on the ballot, because I wanted him to be the city council person from this part of Brooklyn, I got to learn some skills on how to get a petition and find out how much number of signatures of the community people I need to get Brother Rich on the ballot, not the person they want me to put on the ballot.
Right.
But I have to learn that skill. Then I have to learn how you file. You know that even when you do it, the way you even fold the damn document, there's a way you fold it and a way you staple it, and all of this stuff makes it legal. So you learn that skill, and we beat them with the skill. And we take, other groups have done it. Latinos have done it. Asians have done it. Are we some kind of crippled? We have a larger number than any of those groups. Why can't we learn that system and take it over too? I don't want to do nothing in their community. I just want to take over that thing in my community. And then I can create my other systems. See, because you can't unless you can control the mechanism that finance your daily everything, you don't have time to create the societies and secrets in the secret societies. We talk about Illuminati. We need a damn Illuminati of our own. Where's our Illuminati? Everybody got an Illuminati. Study them and you see all Illuminati means is someone who's illuminate, someone who's given light to your way of life, someone who's protecting you and controlling the wealth and the interest that is you. We get busy describing their Illuminati. Where's our Illuminati? Protecting us. And you can't have a secret society based in somebody else's spiritual reality. You can only build a secret society based in your spiritual reality. And when I talk about spirit, I'm not just talking about ancient African religions or ancient Kemet. I love ancient Kemet. Ancient Kemet give me a lot of information. I love being a Yoruba priest. That gives me a lot of information. But I'm an African American, formerly enslaved in the United States of America. I got a reality too. Okay? What is that reality? What does that reality tell me about who my friends are and who my enemies are and how I should behave towards them? Well, that formulation that comes to mind to me to allow me to manipulate that whole thing, that's my spirituality. As it hooks up to my reality. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So even one might not say Brother Biggie Smalls was spiritual, but Biggie Smalls was a spiritual dude. Now, if you get confused and think spirituality and religiosity is the same thing, then you're going to stay confused. When you understand that spirituality is the energy you muster inside of you based on the knowledge that came from outside of you, and you put and mix that together to deal with the conflicts and the reality that you have to face in your day-to-day life, that's your spirituality. You understand what I'm saying? And so we need to teach people spirituality is your being in control of your reality. All right? You can borrow the tools from the ancestors. They got plenty of tools to loan us. That's why you study history. But you're going there to borrow the tools. You ain't going there to stay back there. You're going back there and borrow the tools, and you don't even need all the tools, so many of them tools ain't going to work today. You borrow the best of the tools that they got, and you bring it here with us today and take on the problems we're faced with the mind that we've developed from this experience. That's spirituality, brother.
You got the spirit in you today, brother.
I'm just trying to.
You got the spirit in them today, man.
If you know how tired I was right now, I'm like,
you don't sound tired, brother. You know, damn.
But
you sound charged up. When you think of the 60s, 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, when you see what's going on now, in order for our people to have a reference point about what works and what doesn't work, was there a decade you think we had it going on, and so we could just, go back to think about that decade and borrow from that decade and see what we was doing right at that time?
No, I don't think there was any decade where we had it going on more than any decade before. Mm-hmm. And that's why sweeping history, what Dr. Jeffries called having a survey of your history, looking at the people who established the multiple black Wall Streets in the 1900s, look at the people who established the banks and the credit unions and so forth in the 1920s, look at the people who took the sharecropping money and bought the land in the 1940s and 50s, and then look at the young people in the 60s who, as we migrated from the farmlands into the urban center after 1945, look at the development of the Black Panther Party and other like groups, the Nation of Islam, to address the conditions we will face in urban America. And take the best of what we can take from any of them and bring it forward to now. That's the key. That's why history is so beautiful. That's why you can go all the way back to Kemet and find something useful for today. Most of it may be just good things to make your heart feel good. But there may be one thing that I can bring in today and I can use, to help guide me through this maze. Why these folks want to take everything I got? Why they're trying to crush me in my community? Something has to tell me that. So as we go back through all of the phases of our history, Dr. Jeffries break them up in 50-year sequence, which he called 50-year turning points, and I like that. If we would take any 50 years and go back into that 50 years and see what's the best things there that we can use today. Then take the next 50 years and see what was the best tools that they had that we can use today. Then take the next 50 years. I think we would get more value out of our history, you know? Mm-hmm. Because there wasn't a time, every generation has been better than the generation before. And the generation today, the generation you're now bringing for your generation is better than mine. You're better equipped than mine. You're better tooled than mine. You have more information than mine, okay? Your generation that you're bringing forth now going to be better tooled than you, better equipped than you. And it is your job to help bring them to that stage. It is your job to make sure that you don't say, "This is mine. I own this information. I'm the elder. We did this in the '60s." That shit don't mean nothing if I can't pass it on to you. I'm 73 years old. I'm lucky to still be hanging out. You know what I'm saying? In a few years, I'm gone, evaporated, done. Anything I know, any experience about I've had that will be useful for your generation, I got to give it to y'all using my words and my deeds. You know, just like I'm working with Brother Rock and Brother Brian on the T-shirt. You know, the three of us are also members of a hotel project in West Africa. We ain't just been talking. It's $1 million project. We've put our minds where, or what's it, they put your mouth where your mind is or whatever. We put our money where our mouth was. And we didn't just do it one time and got scared and run away. We've been at it for now almost 15 years. We've lost a lot, but we never gave up. Because the need for the linkages between Africa and African American is so essential that we got to make this thing work. And it's working. You know, when we first got in, we were ignorant. We were just learning how to do it. Now we're negotiating equity with the Ghana government and other corporations in Ghana. We ain't making no money yet, but we got the institution, and it's going to be there for y'all's generation, you know. But we had to learn those skills, being in the field, you know. You had to learn the skills of, you can't do nothing without security, because if you can't secure your enterprise don't exist, you know. So
I don't want to hold you too long, brother. I got one last question.
I know I got another engagement.
Yeah, you got time for one more question, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To close out with, marriage is on the decline in the black community, so they say, according to statistics. Mm-hmm. You ask a brother, man, you gonna marry her? He'll say, hell no, man. You know what happens if I get divorced? You know how they gonna come after me, man. So we don't have two-parent households like we used to. Is marriage important, you think, to get us back to getting that family dynamic, or is just being with a woman sufficient? Or do you think we need to get married like how we used to be married and have a wife and have a husband? The institution of marriage in this country, what's your thoughts on it?
I think marriage was invented by Africans, and it is invented by a way to have order and to hold people responsible for one another and responsible for the children they produce. When we let marriage get defined by European Christianity and Euro-Arab Islamization, we lost our way, because neither of those institutions have the capacity to allow marriage to express itself in the way that the Africans designed it to do. Marriage was a way of organizing a group of people. Marriage is a way of taking responsibility for the rearing and the well-being of the offsprings that came from a male and female when they got together sexually. Marriage was a way for the community that you were in to hold you and your woman responsible for one another. Marriage was a way to follow the laws of nature in its design to constantly replicate the divine structure of the universe itself, as discerned by our ancestors, you know. And so it wasn't just the thing about emotional attachment or the European notion of love, because none of that shit means nothing in a real marriage. Okay, those are attractions. Sister look fine, so I'm attracted to her behind, but until I have a conversation about her history, I'll never know her mind. And it is that mind that instructs the behind of both the brother and the sister. And so marriage in Africa was about you learning the divine in you and developing and cultivating the divine in you so that it would recognize the divine in your mate, who had also recognized, developed, and cultured the divine in themselves. So it was really the God in you that married the God in her, and the God in her married the God in you. And that concept of God had to do with the greatest possibility of both of us. That's what marriage was about when we created it. Then you got these other folks came in with their religion and redesigned everything, including our minds. Now we think marriage is about spending $50,000 to have a party. All right? Just to spend $2,000 to get divorced 2 years later. I mean, we have to come back to marriage is about building the foundation blocks for building nations. It allows for a certain stability and a certain order. It's based on something observable in the universe. And so we imitate, the Africans imitated the universe. We imitated the cosmology and the ecology to design our sociology.
Deep.
Okay. So we can close it that one.
Yeah. That perfect way to close it. Listen, leave your contact info for the people who want to get in touch with you, my brother.
Yes, sir. If anyone want to reach me, you can reach me at ProfessorSmallAfricanWorld.com. That's the www. That's the website, ProfessorSmallAfricanWorld.com, or at my email, CSMALL1926 @ AOL.com. And don't forget, Professor Small 22. And when you think about Professor Small 22, what's it again? The HarlemMemorabilia.com. That's distributing the African legends and the African American legends. So I'm a legend thanks to these young folks. They
Living legend.
live me up.
Living legend.
Thank you.
Living legend.
But thank you, Brother Rich. Me and you've been trying to catch up for about a year now.
Yeah, man, a while.
Together. So I'm glad I was able to get here before this one. I'm glad you've been able to develop more of your product in your studio. Keep doing it. People like the way you come. Don't change your standard. Keep doing what you're doing the way you're doing it.
I appreciate it, man. I need to have you here more often. So I'm going to be reaching out to you more often.
Well, you got to get them younger brothers behind me. You got to get Brother Rock up here. You got to get Brother Brian up here.
Definitely.
These are the people that are making the ideas that me and Dr. Jeffries and Runoko is talking about. They've brought it into being. The same thing with you. You're sitting here literally competing with ABC and NBC and CBS and CNN from your basement.
Right.
That's some deep shit right there, brother.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for tuning in, family.
Blessings. Hotep.
It's Brother Rich signing out. Peace.
They gon' need to raise the rim. They gon' need the cage in that gymnasium. I play to win, Will Still Chamberlain. Even Damien and Satan is afraid of him.
And they was talking all that hot-ish. Where the prophets ain't apostles, here the gospel is the gossip. I'm a science project, try and pocket this rhyming process. Watch us in formation, going through lines. Fiber optics, this is Miley Cyrus in her freak phase. The naked truth, don't be Ray Caruth in a trunk punk, just take the truth. Shit, Daisy Dukes at a night show. I raid your room, change the mood. That was like though, yeah. Break a fuse if they refuse. This snapping, shots without the flashes. If I was ever in a pit with you, that's harassment. Your storyboard magic that had it. To be real, our ears over the field like 100-yard passes. Score the basket, order more caskets. Only way they getting bypasses is gastric. I'm tapped in, it's too late. Fix your face, this is sleeping on a killer in a cabin by Crystal Lake.
Lord,
we got rent to raise.
They gon' need to raise the rim.